Okay, so our next speaker is Dr. Saleem Drera. He's Energy Fuels Vice President of Radioisotopes, Radiological Systems, and Intellectual Property. Saleem is going to share how Energy Fuels is leveraging a mining byproduct that's produced at this mill and a new separation technique to help improve the global supply chain for radioisotopes needed for some emerging cancer treatments. This is again just a great example of how the people at this mill are driving some real human impact. So I'll turn it over to you, Salim. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Curtis. Is there a way I can get to my presentation? Hold on. There you go.
You got it.
All right, great. All right, so the holy grail of the cancer therapeutics world has always been how do we. Okay, is that better? All right. The holy grail of the cancer therapeutics world has always been how do we kill cancer without harming nominal tissues? I think there's something that's kind of on the cusp of being there, and it's a form of radioligand therapy. Now, to explain first of all what radioligand therapy is, it's the use of an artificial molecule, such as an artificial peptide or artificial antibody, that is connected with a radioisotope. First of all, this artificial antibody, they have receptors and they have affinity for cancer cell antigens, which is essentially just a protein that hangs off of a cancer cell. That those proteins are specific to those cancer cells, and if we can design something such as an artificial antibody, we can label it or attach a radioisotope to it to deliver that to the cancer cell to kill the cancer cell. This is currently being used in a variety of techniques. We label these artificial molecules with gamma emitters to do diagnostics. We've also started to label them with beta emitters to do some therapeutic techniques as well. But for now, sort of this holy grail that I'm speaking about really comes about with the adaptation of alpha emitters that we can attach to these. Alpha emitters are great because an alpha emitter, if you remember from your high school physics class, can't penetrate the epidermis of the skin, so it can't really travel that far in biological tissues. But when it does travel in biological tissues within the body, it does. First of all, it doesn't go far, and it emits a whole bunch of energy that has the ability to really kill the cancer cell. Um, so really trying to adopt these alpha emitters is really what I'm talking about with regard to this holy grail of cancer therapeutics. There is one issue, however, with the alpha emitters. We have never used alpha emitters in the past, and if you look at the hundreds of alpha emitters that we have access to or that exist, there's probably about 15 different criteria that make them therapeutically attractive. They have to decay in a certain amount of time that isn't too long so that you can ingest them and that they, decay and kill cancer cells. But also the half-life can't be too short because you need time to get them to the patients themselves. They have to decay to a stable isotope so you don't have additional irradiation of components such as the kidneys and so on and so forth. If you take those 15 components and you look across the hundreds of different alpha emitters that we have, you only have three alpha emitters that are medically attractive. They are astatine 211, lead 212, and actinium 225. And unfortunately, none of these alpha emitters have been used in the past. We don't have methods for production of these, or we haven't had methods for production of these. So that is really essentially the bottleneck behind getting these alpha emitters or getting these cancer therapeutics to a wide audience, wide, patient population. So actually, why is the mill and why are our mines a critical asset to medical isotopes? Well, it's really in the creation of these attractive alpha emitters. First of all, you require a conversion technique. These are typically off-the-shelf particle accelerators, nothing special there. But what you have to irradiate, or the target for those, is various radium isotopes. we don't have a lot of radium out in the world that you can get access to very easily. So it requires a company such as Energy Fuels that will pull radium from the uranium or pull radium from the monazite, which we can actually, allow this industry to expand and grow. So I really like this slide. I hope you can see it. On the left here is a refractory prostate cancer patient. What I mean by refractory patient is this is the person who has been basically exhausted all methods for treatment of their prostate cancer. And as you can see, their stage 4, the prostate cancer has metastasized all across their body. So this patient was enrolled in a program in Germany called a compassionate care program. Unfortunately, they don't exist here in the United States, but this is a program in which a patient who has essentially no other means of treating their cancer can be subject to a treatment that has not received approval yet. This is one of the first patients that was subjected to an actinium-225 radioligand therapy. And as you can see, they've went from a prostate cancer that had metastasized person who you probably had on the order of, at best a few months left in their life. After receiving 4 treatments of what it is a PSMA actinium-225, they went completely into remission and have absolutely no cancer left in their body. The good thing as well too about the radioligand therapies, as I mentioned, the artificial antibodies that target the cancer cell antigens is, when you have, say, prostate cancer that metastasizes to your bones or something like that, it mutates, but typically it retains the peptide that hangs off of the cancer cell. So if you're targeting, say, a cancer that is originated in the prostate, you have a good chance of also killing the cancer that has metastasized throughout the body as well. So this is being touted as a complete, sort of a cure-all for basically any stage of cancer. So the radioligand landscape is quite large. As you can, this chart here is also quite a bit old. Right now, there are 2 radioligand therapies that are approved by the FDA and that are used commercially. One is Pluvicto, the other is Lutathera. Pluvicto is a beta. Well, actually, both are beta therapeutic options. One is for prostate cancer, the other is for neuroendocrine tumors. So this has kind of been, with regards to beta emitters relative to alpha emitters, beta emitters have been kind of a low-hanging fruit in terms of the ability to access the beta itself. So a lot of these, such as Pluvicto right now, which it's a Novartis product, is in stage 3 clinical trials for, and really the big advantage to this, of course, there are the beta emitters out there, and we're seeing probably a 20 to 30% response rate on patients with these emitters, but moving towards an alpha emitter product, essentially the same targeting molecule, but now labeled with an alpha emitter, we're seeing response rates that are as high as 90%. So it's really a exciting point in the cancer therapeutic world. You're going to be seeing a lot of other products that are going to be labeled with alpha emitters emerge for different indications. There's things out there for AML. Is another big one that's in phase 3 clinical trials. All sorts of liver cancer, pan cancers. There's a lot of different various components and therapeutic options that are coming down the pipeline. So in 2001, I was part of a company called Radtran, and we entered into a strategic alliance agreement with Energy Fuels to try to evaluate the ability to recover radium isotopes here to deliver to the pharmaceutical industry. We went through a series of seeing, okay, how do we leach these from the ore tailings? Can we, process them in the techniques that we had developed and everything, and made a lot of progress. And about a year ago, Energy Fuels acquired Radtran, so now I'm officially Energy Fuels employee, and we're currently working right now to try to close the final technical gaps and move towards piloting and eventually commercializing this process. So essentially, why is the mill a huge asset to the company? Well, I mean, not only do we have access to the uranium ores and the monazite ores and everything where we actually get the radium, but we also have a license to process and purify radium, and we also have a disposal facility here that we can dispose of the waste. I mean, it's something that the cancer and pharmaceutical industry really requires if these amazing drugs are going to become a reality. So just to give you kind of a little bit of a overview of the value chain as well too. So ore comes to the mill, we process it here, it goes through a uranium process, let's say, and then we get the tails and we leach it, we produce the radium. That radium then goes on for conversion to either actinium-225 or lead-212, and this is the application of the radium to like an accelerator or something like that. That's converted. It's usually sent to like a CDMO, which does the labeling for the pharmaceutical. So they take the artificial antibody and they label it with actinium-225 or lead-212. Then that is delivered directly to the patient via an injection in the body. And those artificial antibodies will travel around until they find the antigen that they want to bind to, which is the cancer cell antigen. And then the patient will receive, typically 3 to 4 treatments such as that over the course of, it depends on what it is. If it's actinium-225, it's typically on a monthly basis or so. Lead-212 has a shorter half-life, so that might be more towards a weekly basis. But and just to kind of give you an overview of the process as well, I kind of already mentioned it, but with regards to radium-226, which has both applications for the production of actinium-225 as well as lead-212. First, the ore arrives here. We leach it for uranium. Then there's a solid liquid separation, and then we take the solid portion, the tails. We re-leach those tails, do a crack and leach process to recover the radium. Those tails still contain more than 99% of the radium in there, and then we do a crack and leach to get those in solution as well. Do another solid liquid separation, and then we go through a purification and concentration step to get the radium eventually to typically to a salt form. It's a radium nitrate form that will dry here. And that is perfect application. That's the perfect type of radium that these reactors and particle accelerators require to be produced into targets. So as I mentioned, we're trying to close the final technical gaps for the process here. Just kind of a few pictures here depicts what we're doing right now. On the left, you'll see this is our leaching process in the laboratory where we're trying to recover the radium from the tails. The picture all the way to the right is a solid liquid separation where we're filtering the tails to recover the radium solution, and in the middle here is where we take the initial radium solution and we begin to try to purify it via a chromatography process. But eventually we are planning to move hopefully towards commercial production of radium here at the mill. It's a byproduct, it's a great asset. So we understand that there are some lead time items as well that do require years for this process, in order for this process to be commercialized. One, since we are going to be handling radium, we are working right now with Eckert and Ziegler at developing and constructing hot cell facilities so we can actually handle and manage radium in larger quantities. Now here is a picture of the exact design of the hot cells that we have developed along with Eckert and Ziegler. They are currently being constructed in Germany. We expect a factory acceptance test of this hot cell to be complete in the springtime, after which it will be packaged, shipped, and delivered here to the White Mesa Mill. We do require some additional infrastructure as well, but this is essentially one of the items that required the longest lead time. So the timeline to of the radium project is, as I mentioned, right now we're kind of in our final phase of testing and trying to close the critical technological gaps for the radium process. We feel we're essentially almost there. We plan to transition at the end of the year or beginning of next year to a pilot facility in which we are going to begin producing milligram levels of radium 226 here at the mill. We also have filed for an amendment to our radium license to include radium 228 as well, which comes from the monazite product. We plan to also begin piloting that process as well as soon as that amendment comes through. So we'll spend about maybe 2 years or so in the pilot phase trying to ramp up to our current limits under our R&D license, which is 600 milligrams of annual production. And we hope to transition to a commercial production phase in 2028, in which we'll ramp up to producing many grams of radium. And just to give you a perspective too, I know everybody's talking about tons and and when I'm talking about milligrams and grams. Well, just to give you a perspective on that, 5 milligrams of radium 228 is enough to treat 100,000 patients. So a little bit goes a long way. So yeah. So and if you have any questions, be happy to take them. Yeah. Can you say that again? Yeah, so it actually can be one or the other. So under the pilot phase program and the R&D program that we have right now, when we transport material out, we will transport it as a liquid, typically a few milligrams in a small few milliliter vial. But ultimately, the conversion facilities and the pharmaceuticals do want this material as a solid. It makes life on their end easier. So we will plan to dry that product and turn it into a nitrate salt or maybe possibly even a chloride salt. So yeah. Yeah, that's a very good point. Significant improvement because essentially the major radioactive component in the tails itself is the radium, and the radium gives way to the radon and everything like that. So essentially, not only are we producing a byproduct and delivering it to cancer therapeutics, but we're also cleaning up the tails the tails that eventually end up in the tailing pond. So yes, it is. There's a double benefit there for sure. Yeah, yeah. Well, it falls under the kind of the general license like radon management system. So in the hot cell facility itself, it's essentially subject to the standard radon emissions. Essentially, what we'll have, is probably just a stack, which will, there may be also a lot of these hot cells, and we're not sure if we're going to have this or not, have a gas holding receptacle in which you don't let any of the gases that pass through the hot cell release for a period of time, which allows the radon to decay. We're not sure if that's the method we're going to go, or if we will just be able to say vent it out a stack, because essentially we aren't increasing the amount of radon to the site. We are for a period of time concentrating it before it vents, but yeah, but total amount of radon on the site will remain the same, or even better because we're removing the radium. So yeah, yeah.
How do you define response to the amount of the cancer that's the amount of full recovery?
No, so really the response rate is just to does the patient react in a positive manner towards the application of the drug? It doesn't indicate whether it's a complete remission or partial remission or anything like that. It's just does the patient show a beneficial outcome towards the application of this drug? So you could say with the beta therapies, 20 to 30% see improvements in their cancer, like some remission, whereas in the alphas, it's 90%. How much of that actually translates to, say, a full cure, I'm not quite sure. But if you're interested, definitely send me an email and I can find some information on that for you. So,
Time for one more. Yep.
Do you see that? Do you see this being first line therapy?
yeah, so typically when new drugs are into the market, they are delivered to refractory patients. That's with prostate cancer, that's a small portion of the field, but because radioligand therapies have very little side effects to them, you don't get you don't essentially we're only attacking cancer cells, and all of the other major side effects that you have with treatment of prostate cancer is essentially eliminated. So there is big effort right now to, even before these drugs have been approved, to have a process in which these go from refractory patients to a frontline treatment, because the benefit and the outcome and the quality of life afterwards seems to be so much better than it would otherwise be. So, yeah.
Okay, well, let's give Dr. Drera a nice hand here. Thank you. That's some amazing work that he's leading up right now.